The Chicago Bears have reached reality TV show level of quarterback drama that is and now doesn't appear to be the case surrounding this team. And all I'm left feeling like is Sunday can't get here soon enough.
You are Locked On Bears, your daily Chicago Bears podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
This is Locked On Bears, and I'm your host, Lauren Cox. I'm here to bring you your daily, in-depth Chicago Bears news and analysis. You can follow me on Twitter at CoxSports1. You can follow the podcast at Locked On Bears on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and the Locked On Bears YouTube channel, where you can keep up with all of our video podcasts as well. If you're one of the people who's moved over to Blue Sky recently as well, that's kind of been the big trend. I'm on there as well. And just my name is laurencox.bluesky.social if you want to keep the conversation going over there. And be sure to check out the Locked On Bears YouTube channel and keep up with all of our daily in-depth Chicago Bears news and analysis. On the show today, we'll try and catch up on and make sense of all the, really, I think, rumors and speculation that swirled around whether any Bears players were advocating for the team to bench Caleb Williams in lieu of Tyson Bagent taking over. And there was a lot of debate about sourcing and Tyson Bagent's dad, and there were Reddit posts and radio debates and all sorts of stuff that really feels far removed from actual football. But we have to talk about it because when this amount of sort of fake or not drama swirls around the team, we need to pay attention to see whether it will be a distraction and something that pulls them apart or something that brings them together to stand up in the face of. So we'll kind of look at that. And then also Xavier McKinney, the Green Bay Packers safety, had some pretty pointed comments for DJ Moore, and we're going to want to see how he responds to those on Sunday as well. I want to start with the quarterback rumors that were and weren't, because this really started even before Shane Waldron was fired. On Monday, Adam Schefter, the ESPN insider, went on the Pat McAfee show and floated out the possibility that among the things the Bears were considering was firing offensive coordinator Shane Waldron, but also considering a potential quarterback change from Caleb Williams to Tyson Bagent. And that came out Monday morning. That seemed like a really big shock. Adam Schefter is saying the Bears had considered or were considering the idea of benching their quarterback. That's about as credible of an NFL reporter as you could hope to hear on the subject. But later Monday, Matt Eberflus has his regular Monday noon press conference and is asked directly, is Caleb Williams your starting quarterback? Yes, Caleb Williams is our starting quarterback moving forward. That is the plan. Caleb Williams is the starter. So it kind of felt like, okay, weird that the Schefter thing came out, but Matt Eberflus, actually to his credit, which he hasn't gotten a lot of this week because there's not much to give it to him this week, but to his credit on this one, he was pretty firm and clear and concise that yes, Caleb Williams is the starting quarterback. He pretty well, at the time, it felt, laid to rest any question about whether Bagent would actually get a shot at this starting lineup. Nope. Eberflus denied it effectively, which is not something he's done a lot of this season. So it felt like that should have been the end of it, right? I mean, Matt Eberflus denied it. That's all he can do, and he's the one who kind of decides it. And he was being wishy-washy about everything with Shane Waldron. He could have been wishy-washy with the quarterback, but was not. It was very clear. Caleb Williams, the quarterback, should have been end of story. But the story continues, and kind of still continues today, because you get reports from Sylvie from the Waddle and Sylvie show on ESPN 1000, Mark Silverman, saying that some players wanted the Bears to make a quarterback change, that there was veteran players in the locker room that wanted Tyson Bagent to take over as the starting quarterback. And I believe there were others too. I don't mean to put this all on Mark Silverman, because I think other people had, reporters and media people had tried to corroborate some of what Sylvie had said, that yes, they too can confirm they'd heard from players or whatever. Like there were more than just Mark Silverman getting on this, but then everything started turning on Sylvie a little bit here because, wide receiver Tyler Scott goes on the Adam Rank show and says, no, that's nonsense. Cole Kmet on his podcast says, no one wanted to bench Caleb Williams. That's nonsense. Everyone emphatically denying that report was true. And you even have Brad Biggs, probably the most credible on the beat local Bears reporter, goes on notably the other rival radio station, 670, and says, I don't believe that happened. I don't think there's a story there, that no, players weren't asking the coaching staff to bench Caleb Williams. And everything kind of escalates a little bit farther here because some people on the Chicago Bears Reddit, and I don't normally like to get deep into all of the speculation and rumor stuff, but I think this is part of the story of some of the drama and firestorm around the Chicago Bears. Reddit poster surmises that, Mark Silverman had said that he had recently talked to Tyson Bagent's dad, and then that Tyson Bagent's dad had some interesting things to say, and then the next day, Sylvie's the one who says players wanted Tyson Bagent to start at quarterback. Some people had been speculating that it was DJ Moore who wanted Tyson Bagent to start at quarterback. Again, all pure speculation at this point. But then people start to put together maybe it would make sense that the backup quarterback's dad might want to see his son be the starting quarterback of the Bears. That's not an unreasonable position for Tyson Bagent's father to have. So then everyone's saying, all right, Tyson Bagent's dad is spreading this rumor about the Bears and feeding Silverman at ESPN 1000 this stuff. And even that doesn't appear to be fully true either. We don't know the full extent here, but to be fair, Mark Silverman has come out and said no, basically laughed at it and said, if you think my source is Tyson Bagent's dad when he's been working in locker rooms and knows how to report this stuff, you're being silly. And I tend to agree with him there, that I think Mark Silverman is not just going to Tyson Bagent's dad and then running with that as though it were purely gospel here. I do believe he talked to Tyson Bagent's dad, but I don't think that's purely the only source of his reporting on this. But because you have the follow-up denials of people like Brad Biggs and Matt Eberflus and Tyler Scott and Cole Kmet and so many others, it seems to be pretty clear that there was not a big locker room divide about what the Bears should do with the quarterback spot. Matt Eberflus seems to have never really entertained it. Leaders on this offense, maybe not all of them, but many leaders on this offense have denied it and don't agree with it. And so where does that leave us then? Where is the truth here? And I think we can't know for sure, right? But I would suspect that, in a locker room of 53 players plus 16 practice squad players, that, you might be able to find a veteran player somewhere on this roster who would want to see Tyson Bagent start, maybe just to protect Caleb Williams, not because they hate Caleb Williams and think he needs to be benched because he's bad, but just to say, hey, Caleb's getting killed out there. We should be putting Tyson Bagent in the game until we can get our stuff figured out with a new offensive coordinator. I don't think it's out of the question that a player or two maybe perhaps felt that way and maybe perhaps expressed that to Mark Silverman or whoever. But I don't think it is true then that a bunch of players in the locker room all think that, or that it was ever really strongly considered by the Bears throughout this process. They got bigger fish to fry right now. I mean, they got a lot going on, and I think Matt Eberflus has done, to his credit, a pretty good job of staying clear and on message with this. The problem is when you have this kind of a firestorm around the team, to me, it signals a bigger issue here. It's not an issue of the locker room split on Bagent versus Caleb Williams, but a culture issue in the locker room in terms of what leaks out and what stays in-house and how this stuff is reported around the team. So we'll kind of look at what this rumor situation, not what the rumor itself means, but what the idea of the situation as a whole represents for this team right now and the culture issues that I think it encapsulates next on Locked On Bears. This episode of Locked On Bears is brought to you by our friends at Mint Mobile. With big wireless providers, what you see is never what you get. Somewhere between the store and the first month bill, the price you thought you were paying magically skyrockets. But with Mint Mobile, you'll never have to worry about gotchas ever again. When Mint Mobile says $15 a month when you purchase a 3-month plan, they mean it. I'm tired of when you get those added fees on your cell phone bill and or if you go over on, if you don't have unlimited and you go over and something surprises you, like say goodbye to overpriced wireless plans and those jaw-dropping monthly bills and unexpected overages. Mint Mobile is here to rescue you with premium wireless plans starting at $15 a month. They all come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/LockedOnNFL. That's mintmobile.com/LockedOnNFL. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/LockedOnNFL. $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speeds slower, above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details. Locked On Bears is also brought to you by our friends at FanDuel Sportsbook, America's #1 sportsbook. And FanDuel wants to get you started right now with some bonus bucks in your account. Because if you're a new customer and you bet $5 and you win that $5 bet, FanDuel is going to add $150 on top of your winnings right back into your account. So if you want to bet $5 on Bears-Packers, where the Bears are 5.5-point underdogs at home, the money line is moving towards the Bears, though. Bears plus 200, and the over-under is set at 40.5 points. A $5 bet on any of those, or basketball, hockey, soccer, boxing, you name it, you're going to win your $5 bet and get your winnings plus $150 in bonus bets. You can even do live betting on the NFL as well, all in the same place where you place your bets. So if you get the hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats and view play-by-play and so much more. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today and get your $150 in bonus bets with your first winning $5 bet. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. The quarterback drama surrounding Caleb Williams and Tyson Bagent doesn't appear to be very real. Doesn't seem to be, it by itself doesn't seem to be a problem in the Bears locker room about guys not liking the quarterback versus liking the quarterback. That doesn't seem to be real. But what is real is that there was such a firestorm around it, and that to me feels like another negative reflection on the culture of the Matt Eberflus regime. And it's easy to say, well, Matt Eberflus can't control what people are posting on Reddit about Tyson Bagent's dad, and that's certainly true. And Matt Eberflus can't control everything, but he does, and he and this coaching staff does set the environment where these things either do or don't take place. Right? You don't see these kind of things swirling around other teams in the same sort of messy way. You certainly don't see this kind of thing swirling around other 4 and 5 teams that were actually positive and optimistic and felt really good 3 weeks ago. Like maybe this stuff swirls around, a 2-7 Raiders team or a 2-8 Jaguars team or a 3-7 New York Jets team or a 2-7 Browns team. Like when you're really, really scraping the bottom of the barrel here and your season's toast, that stuff can start to leak out a little bit. And ultimately winning versus losing can be the biggest source of, good times versus bad times for your team culture. But the fact that you have more and more leaking out of this Bears organization and locker room reflects the culture within it. That they were pretty good for a while under Matt Eberflus, where not much would get out. You wouldn't hear players come out and saying all that much of substance, but we've kind of had this growing trend over the last 3 weeks of named and unnamed players coming out and saying things. That's the other thing too. We've had players on the record, Kevin Byard, DJ Moore, Jalen Johnson, Cole Kmet, come out and say hey, yeah, we disagreed with how Matt Eberflus defended the Hail Mary play and the play before at the end of that game, and we need to talk about it. We've had players come out and say, yeah, Shane Waldron, that guy didn't communicate very well or was too much of a nice guy or whatever. There were a lot of different things that were said about Shane Waldron that were pretty overtly critical with their name on it, not afraid to say it. Players are speaking out and being critical in ways that you don't hear as much on other teams, and we haven't heard as much on previous Bears teams, and doesn't seem to reflect a tight ship around the locker room, right? You would think if players were fully bought in if the culture was really including everyone in on this, that you would have no reason to come out and say anything that might be critical or detrimental to your coaching staff or your team in any way. You would come out and stick to the well-trained lines you get as a player, right? Hey, we're trying to take it one day at a time. We're getting better every day. We ignore the outside noise, and we band together as a team. And anytime you're asked a question about a controversy, you say, hey, man, we're just taking it one day at a time, one game at a time. We got to go one. I mean, all the cliches. You know, you've heard it. We've heard it for years from multiple Bears coaches for a long time, but we even heard it the last couple of years under Eberflus and stuff. Like, players would kind of stick to the company line. And in the last 3 weeks, and even I think a little bit beyond that, players have been sticking less and less to the company line. And that seems to me to be in contrast or in question to then how much they're dedicated to said company line. Like, if you expand company line to not just be a slogan and a set of words, but company line to be like the company, the Bears, the team, the success of the team, like, there seems to be a bit more willingness to expand beyond that and say, hey, maybe what I think the team needs is some public criticism, because what we're saying behind closed doors isn't getting the job done. And that, to me, reflects a cultural issue around the Chicago Bears. I mean, the fact that Tyson Bagent's dad is even involved in any of this conversation feels to me like a bad culture thing. And again, I tend to give Mark Silverman here the benefit of the doubt, given his years of experience in the market, that he didn't just take Tyson Bagent's dad as one source and then roll with it. I mean, I believe he talked to Tyson Bagent's dad, and that informed some of what he's saying. But like, if your backup quarterback's dad is involved anywhere in any sort of media, period, not even reporting quarterback drama, but just like if the backup quarterback's dad has a voice in any of this, that feels like a problem. And Travis Bagent, his dad, is certainly more than welcome to have his own opinions and to feel whatever he wants about his son and about the team. And like, he's welcome to be frustrated about that. That's fine. It's when that then gets to be brought to light and is part of the actual narrative and conversation around the team that you look at it and you say, like, that doesn't happen in other locker rooms. Well, can you name any other backup quarterback's dad I was going to say in NFL history, but some of them are sons of professional quarterbacks. So it's not a great analogy here. But like, in the NFL currently, can you think of a backup quarterback whose dad you know? I mean, I'm trying to think if there's any actual like son. Patrick Mahomes' dad. No, he's not the backup. But you know what I mean? Sure, there are literally some examples here. But like, backup quarterback dads are not part of the conversation week in or week out anywhere else. And so that's, to me, feels like something that, hey, if I'm running a locker room that's a tight ship, you know, we talk to Tyson and Tyson talks to his dad and says like, hey, like, we just need this to be in-house. Like, that's just how it goes. And I think there could easily be, you could handle that situation in-house and not have Tyson Bagent's dad talking to Mark Silverman and giving him whatever information he does give him, whether that's related to this or not. There clearly was a conversation with Tyson Bagent's dad, and like, that shouldn't be part of this conversation. And I don't mean to make like the media completely innocent in any of this either. There's probably some blame that is deserved here, but I think the bigger issue for me is that every single season, the media is always looking for information from the locker room. You always have reporters having off-the-record conversations with players, with agents, with dads. That stuff happens all the time. What doesn't happen all the time is that they get information that they can then go public with. That is a newer corroboration here. And that's what's different about the culture now. Like, you might not realize if you don't work in the industry that, like, Brad Biggs, for example, knows almost everything that's going on with around the Chicago Bears. He can't report it all because there's some stuff that you know that if you say it publicly, then everyone will be able to figure out who told you, because only a certain number of people knew that information. And the fact that you know it means one of those people had to tell you. So you can't put it out there because you have to protect your source in some ways. But because now players and agents and parents of players are a little bit more forthcoming with information, it's easier to put more of that information out. Like, the difference is not that the media is digging more, it's that they're finding more when they dig. And it's that players are giving them more when they dig. And that is where the culture problem stands. Yes, the media makes it worse and adds to the firestorm, but that's their job. And they are always trying to have a conversation around the team. That's the name of the business, is talk about the team and what's going on. The media's not doing anything different this year. It's the team and the players that are doing things different this year. And that's where the firestorm is, at the end of the day, their self-created problem. And it's Matt Eberflus' job to prevent that from happening in the first place and put out the fire that once it now has been lit. And that's also been very poorly done by this head coach. So all this feels like it could be a pretty big distraction coming into a huge game against the Green Bay Packers. So we'll kind of look at what we should watch for and how to tell if this is pulling them apart versus maybe can they turn this all as outside noise and bring them band together sort of against it. It's us against the world now in Chicago. We'll take a look at what that looks like, including the outside noise from Packers safety Xavier McKinney calling out Bears wide receiver DJ Moore. Next on Locked On Bears. This episode of Locked On Bears is brought to you by our friends at Hillsdale College. Hillsdale College is offering more than 40 free online courses to continue your education. That's right, totally free, no cost. And I think it's a great way to make time for ourselves and to enrich our own lives and be continual, perpetual learners. Whether you want to get into some of their cool history courses like the rise and fall of the Roman Republic, or they have a classical music course, or you can get into some of the more, academic stuff like chemistry and mathematics. They've got a documentary style course as well, some economics courses, a bunch of different ways to continue your education. And all of Hillsdale's courses are self-paced so that you can start whenever you want and tune in wherever you are. You can go deeper with readings and quizzes and discussions, or you can just take in the lectures and enjoy the process. Go right now to hillsdale.edu/lockedon to enroll. There is no cost and it's easy to get started. That's hillsdale.edu/lockedon to register. HILLSDALE. Hillsdale.edu/lockedon. Real or fake, Bagent's dad or no Bagent's dad, all of this stuff surrounding the Bears is a potential distraction. The players are being asked about it at press conferences, on podcasts, in interviews, in the locker room. Whether they were hearing it or not initially, they hear about it when those questions are asked. And all of a sudden, they start talking in the locker room like, man, have you heard all this stuff about that? Man, that's some nonsense or whatever. But still, it's a potential distraction. It's something that's not X's and O's football related. It's not part of the game plan. It's not part of their matchup. It's BS, it's drama, it's reality TV show stuff around the team. And that can either be a distraction that pulls players apart and says, man, I bet you were the one who wanted Tyson Bagent. You're not bought in on this. Screw you, man. Versus, hey guys, like let's bring this together and put all that noise out there and let's band together and play for each other, because clearly there's a lot coming at us from out there, but it's not coming from in here. So let's really dig deep and play hard for the person next to us and play more focused and more better to just try and focus on that instead of being able to focus on everything around them. There's a lot of different ways that this can escalate and bring things down further and create more drama and more distrust among players. And it's kind of up to the leaders in the locker room, Matt Eberflus, but also the leaders on this team to say, hey, enough's enough. We're cutting the crap here and let's just play together and be teammates here. And I would think, given how much is already leaking out, that would suggest that, hey, like it would feel like things would keep getting worse, that it's already sort of spiraling in a negative direction. So is this going to be the drama that pulls them together? Maybe, but I'm a little bit concerned about that. But I also wonder if, firing Shane Waldron, who, hey, by the way, could also be one of the sources in this conversation. I don't know. Maybe the fired guy wouldn't mind sharing some thoughts on what he actually thinks that he's no longer there. I mean, that's a whole other conversation there, but that's something I don't think people spent enough time talking about. That, hey, yeah, the guy you just axed, he could certainly be an anonymous source for anybody in this conversation. But nonetheless, maybe Thomas Brown could come in and say, all right, like, this is the turning point, right? I'm in charge now. Let's cut the crap. Let's get together. And like that can be the thing that pulls them together. And I'm really curious to see what the energy looks like, especially on offense on the field on Sunday. Are they hyped up on the sideline? Are they picking up Caleb Williams when he gets knocked down? If a player drops a pass, are they coming over and high-fiving him and hitting him on the head, going, say, hey, man, don't worry about it. Lock in. Let's go. Let's get the next one. Let's move on. Let's stay engaged. Let's stay energized. Or are there a lot of slumping shoulders and hanging your head and walking back to the huddle and not jogging onto the sidelines and sitting far apart and, body language stuff? Like, we'll be able to see a lot of that during the game. And I think a lot of scrutiny and attention is going to be on DJ Moore, not only because of his past on the field. I don't even want to say antics. That's too much of a word, but because of the past controversies over, him finishing routes or the body language stuff with him that I think has been generally overblown up to this point. But now the Packers are getting in on it. And that's where this should mean war. And that's where we want to see a fire get lit under DJ Moore, because Green Bay Packers safety Xavier McKinney, who's having a great season, by the way, I don't know exactly if he was asked about it or what, but he gave some quotes about DJ Moore, and specifically about the play against Washington, I think it was, when DJ Moore was running a route, and then before the play was over, walked over to the sideline and sat on the bench. I said later he rolled his ankle on that play, and so he was injured and was going to the sideline anyway, and had kind of stepped out of bounds anyway, so he couldn't come back in and reestablish himself. So, hey, I've got a rolled ankle. I need to sit out for a second. Just go take a seat on the bench and get treatment right away. That was his explanation. Xavier McKinney says, and I quote, "Cap." Not true. He doesn't buy that one bit. His quote was, "You're supposed to be the guy, and you're just walking off the field. You're walking off the field on a rookie quarterback that you've been praising." He was saying, he's like, in all my years in the NFL, I've never seen anything like that. And basically calling out DJ Moore. He didn't use a specific adjective. Like, he didn't say the word soft, or, he didn't insult him with like a specific adjective insult, but very much saying like, hey man, you don't do that. And that's like bad. You hurt your team and you hurt your quarterback, essentially, is what he's saying by doing that. You're not committed or dedicated or playing hard enough. Like, you're lesser than other receivers because you did that. You're a problem in your offense, is what Xavier McKinney said. DJ Moore responded to that and said, hey, man, trash talk is trash talk. We'll see on Sunday. I maybe would have liked a little more fire from him, but that's not really his style. DJ Moore is not an emotional, fiery guy. He's very much a speak softly and carry a big stick. Is that whatever that the Teddy Roosevelt quote is in there? Like, that's more his style. But I do want to see the big stick then on Sunday. Like, keep quiet. Or I never. The carry a big stick quote is always one that I lose. I lose quotes pretty good on here. But like, his version of the big stick here is that speak softly and carry a big stick. Okay, he's not going to speak, but let's see the big stick on Sunday. That means dominating. That means getting open, running routes, making big plays, hustling to the end of the whistle, and if not showing your teammates how much you care, show Xavier McKinney how much you care. Like, really go all out and say, hey, man, don't you dare question my effort because I'm kicking your butt right now with 100 yards. Like, easier said than done because offensive line and quarterback and stuff. Like, to me, what I want to see from DJ Moore is less about what his box score stats say, because some of that's out of his control. But I want to see the routes. I want to see the discipline. I want to see the energy. I want to see the hustle. I want to see the physicality. I want to see him go above and beyond in everything he can control. No drop passes, no penalties, make some guys miss on missed tackles, and get open. He can't control if the ball is accurate. He can't control if the ball's on time. He can't control if the quarterback's under pressure. But he can control the routes he runs and the ability to catch the balls that are thrown to him, and what he does with the ball after the catch, and the way he blocks on plays, and the way he lines up correctly, and the way he has the snap count correctly. I want no false starts, no holding, no BS. Just go out and have a good individual game, regardless of what the rest of the offense is doing in the game. Like, show us that you care a little bit more, DJ Moore, because he generally gives off to me like someone who doesn't get too caught up in the emotions of the game. I think there's a little bit of Jay Cutler in him in that regard, where it's like, he's got a wife and kids, man. Like, yeah, this is his job and he enjoys it, but he's not going to put all of his emotions out on the field every single Sunday and wear his heart on his sleeve and, die for this game every single week. Like, he's going to do his job and that's good and stuff. And he takes it seriously, but it's just like, doesn't take it too seriously. It's kind of how I think he does it. So I want to see his response and the offense's response as a whole to Thomas Brown and to all of the drama and swirling nonsense quarterback change stuff that we've been hearing about. Like, again, if the Bears weren't going to take Caleb Williams out at the end of those couple games where they're getting their butt kicked and he's still getting hit, they're not going to make a change to Tyson Bagent now, all of a sudden, at any time in the near future here. So I don't think we have anything to worry about on the quarterback front. Let's get to the actual football game on Sunday and hope it's not too embarrassing. Hope it's not a complete and total disaster. But either way, We'll be here for you on the Locked On Bears podcast to break down everything we saw in the game. So make sure you hit that subscribe button on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. That's going to be the best way to keep up with all of our daily, in-depth Chicago Bears news and analysis. Thanks for making Locked On Bears your first listen. Don't forget, we have a live postcast after the Bears game is done on the Locked On Sports Chicago YouTube channel. Joe George goes live after every Bears game to break it down with an immediate reaction right after the game is done. So go check that out on the Locked On Chicago Sports YouTube page. We'll be back with another episode of Locked On Bears on Monday to break it all down. And we'll be back, of course, every day to give you another opportunity to bear down.